What an intro. I'm Mike, this is My T-Shirt Printers, let's do this. Welcome back to the My T-Shirt Printers YouTube channel. That's a mouthful. So today we're going to be doing some 3D cap embroidery, how we create 3D cap embroidery here at My T-Shirt Printers. But before we carry on with that, don't forget to stick around in this episode because I will be announcing a competition that we're going to be running to win some caps. So starting out with 3D embroidery, one of the most frequent questions I get asked, people call me all the time, they email me, what are my machine settings? Well, it's actually got not much to do with your machine settings, it's actually to do with the digitized file, the stitch file that tells your machine what to do. The basics of 3D embroidery is you almost doubling your stitch count and you're sticking a piece of foam underneath to give it that raised effect. So in saying all of that, you can't take a stitch file that's been digitized for a t-shirt or a hoodie or a polo shirt and expect it to work as a 3D embroidery on a cap. It just won't work. The stitch count just isn't there to cover the foam. What you basically have to keep in mind is the stitches have to cover the foam and cut the foam at the same time. This is why when I say you're doubling the stitch count, you literally are doubling the amount of stitches that will be in the embroidery to cover the foam. What I'm going to do, if I get the time to do it, which hopefully I will after I film this, edit this and upload it, is I will get a sample 3D file. I'll put the link in the description below. Just keep an eye out for it. It won't be the same file as we're using in this video, it will be a different file. Just a nice simple 3D embroidery so you can give it a go to. Next thing we got to do is go through all the little bits that we need to actually make this 3D embroidery happen. But before we do that, if you haven't subscribed to this channel already, hit that subscribe button and hit the like button, it really does help this channel out. So the first thing we're going to need besides the embroidery machine obviously is a cap hoop. Straight after that we're going to need some clips. Now the clips I use aren't the clips that actually come with the cap hooping system. I find those clips a little bit soft. With the ones I use, they tend to have a little bit more tension and hold for a lot longer and last a lot longer. Then we're going to need a pair of scissors with a nice pointy tip. Straight after that we're going to need a metal ruler and a blade. The next thing I use is this masking tape. So in this masking tape, it's about 50 mils wide, which I think is about 2 inches. I just basically take a piece, tear it like that, tear it off, and then split it straight down the middle. And then I can attach this to the side of the foam, which attaches to the cap. Now it's not the cheapest masking tape because it's got to be able to stick to the foam and stick to the cap at the same time. With this masking tape, I can probably get about 10 uses out of it before I have to renew it. Now some people do use elastic bands, or worst case, they use their fingers. Now, I definitely wouldn't use my fingers because I want these guys for the next project. So stick to the tape, it's probably the best option. I find elastic bands a little bit awkward to use sometimes. Just tape, it works. Next up is the foam. So basically I use a 3mm foam. This foam does come in a whole bunch of different colors depending on what your stitch color is. So if you're having a blue embroidery, use a blue one. If you're having a yellow embroidery, use a yellow one. If you have a red embroidery, use a red one. You get the point. Just in case, if you're doing a black embroidery, use a black foam. Then almost last, I use cap backing on this embroidery. I'll explain later why I use cap backing on this one, but I used it. Now the last requirement for 3D embroidery is patience. You have to keep in mind that doing 3D embroidery, you have to slow your machine down slightly just to try and eliminate problems such as thread breaks and catching those thread breaks when they do happen. So one of the last things to also help with your 3D embroidery, even your normal embroidery, is one of these. If you get your tension right, you're going to have less thread breaks, less problems, and a smoother running embroidery. So basically I use one of these and I set it to about 250 as my bobbin tension, and I seem to get a really smooth embroidery with these. I still get some bobbin breaks and everything. With 3D embroidery, you're going to get them. That's why you got to have patience. Okay, so in the description below, I will leave a list of all the little things I've mentioned here. A nice long list of all the things that we're going to need to make this project. And you thought you wouldn't get any more lists. Right, so with all that out the way, let's roll this 3D embroidery. down how we actually made this 3D embroidery on the cap. So let's go through all the little steps and break down this video. Firstly, I use the cap backing to stabilize this embroidery. Now, not all embroideries require cap backing. It basically comes down to the style of the cap and how complex the design is. So this is a little bit of a yes and a no type of thing. If you've got a very complex logo, you want to use a cap backing to try and keep all the components or all the elements in line, in register, and just looking good on the cap. If a cap is a little bit of a floppy cap, then you also want that cap backing. If it's a nice rigid stiff cap that's got it's very well structured, then you don't really need a backing. In this case, I used a backing. The next thing were the clips. So when I did the clips, you can see I only used 2 clips for this. So I basically got one of my clips like that, and I placed it right about there. So I'm just gonna hook it over there. So what I did, I hit it at the midpoint. If I put it too high up, then what happens is when the embroidery hits the top of the cap over here, you kind of, it bends the cap a bit much. So it hits that top peak, embroidery can't go anymore, and it pulls the cap too far down. I hook it midway, so it gives that cap a little bit of elasticity, so you can still go a little bit higher than what you normally can if you had to clip it over here. If the cap isn't a 6-panel cap and it's a 5-panel cap like the one we used, 2 seconds. If you see this cap here, it is a 6-panel cap. Let me just bring some light onto it there. So you can see there's that line going straight down the middle. That makes it a 6-panel cap. The cap I used in this example, we sewed out in this example, or embroidered out in this example, was a 5-panel cap. That's why I got the piece of chalk and I just marked it. It's just fabric chalk. Chalked it up so that we can get that center point all aligned up. Next thing to do is grab our foam. So this is our 3mm foam that we use, and we're going to grab our metal ruler and our blade. Now use a metal ruler, not a plastic ruler, because a plastic ruler, if you slip, you're probably going to cut your fingers off, and that wouldn't be a good thing. What I do when I cut the foam, I actually do probably about a centimeter, just about around the design. So the actual design area, I add about a centimeter and I go around. This also keeps down your waste, and you just get a lot more out of the sheets you actually buy, because these things can cost quite a bit. A quick line up on the embroidery machine to center the design, and away she goes. Then once the cap is complete and you've gone through all the thread breaks and trying to clean all that up, which I tell you sometimes it can be a little bit of a mess, this is where your patience, the zen, comes in. You can get that cap off the machine and start the cleanup process. So the first thing you do obviously is peel off the tape. Once the tapes come off, you start peeling off the foam. Now what I do with the foam, I basically pull it in towards the design. This just helps with the cleanup process. If you pull it out, sometimes you get like a bit of a furry edge and it's just more of a hassle to clean up. So if you pull it in towards the design, you actually make a cleaner tear. Now this is where those pointy scissors come in. Now I've tried every single shape of scissors possible, shape, size. I've even tried stitch unpickers, I've tried needles, I've tried tweezers. These scissors, they're the best scissors that I could find to actually clean up this type of embroidery. Basically, with some patience, you start poking and tucking in that foam underneath the stitches. This is why you need a higher stitch count in the 3D embroidery, is to cut as much of that foam as possible and to hide that foam underneath the stitches. That's why it's also helpful to have, I don't know where to put it, that different colored foam, because basically when you have a white foam and a red embroidery, you get some of that white foam poking out. So if you've got red foam and red embroidery, it's easier to hide that foam from poking out. Yes, you still got to go through and tuck in what's visible, but it just makes this job a little bit easier. And with that, let's just have one last look at these caps. Who wants to win some caps? Right, so we're going to be running a cap competition to win 5 caps and a carry case to boot. So how's this all going to work? You are going to send through your design to be voted for on this channel. The best design wins, and the link is below in the description with all the details you need. If there is anything else, just send me a message and I'll get back to you. Right, so that about brings it to the end of today's episode. I can't wait to see what you guys actually send through for your designs. We will be pulling some of them and giving some advice on how to tweak them, how to make them a little bit better. So start sending them through. This is going to be awesome. Can't wait to see them. So that's about it for me. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, follow our social media channels, and we'll catch you on the next one. I'm out of here.